Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Courageous Possibilities, the podcast. And today I am so excited to welcome Claudia Spahr. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you. Hello.
I
And thank you
realized I
so much.
didn't check if I've pronounced your name correctly. Is that how you would pronounce your name?
Yeah, some people say Claudia and some say Claudia or
Mhm.
Claudia because it's I'm Swiss,
Yeah,
but the surname is usually what makes people stumble, and it's pronounced Spa, like
it
the
is Spahr.
health well-being center or the shop.
Oh, how perfect. Amazing. All right, so I'm just going to read a bit of your bio, get everyone on board with who you are, why you're here, and how come I'm so excited to have you on the podcast with us. So Claudia is a business mentor, a best-selling author. She's won the Best Business Women Award and is founder and CEO of HolyMama. She's a wellness pioneer with a unique concept that she birthed back in 2003 for retreats for mothers and children. And she's since mentored female leaders in over 40 countries. Claudia also built a beach resort in Goa and elevated it to international media acclaim. And prior to her 2 decades in wellness now, she has worked before that as a broadcast journalist and foreign correspondent for TV and radio, reporting for CNN, BBC, Swiss national TV, and independent TV channels. Wow, what a journey that you've been on.
Yep, I am no spring chicken, been around the block once or
That's
twice.
amazing. And I'm so excited actually, because there's so many pieces to this journey. But I'd really love it if you could share with us, like, what are the highlights of your story? Like how you came to where you are today?
You know, I'm saying this also for those who come up against challenges in life and struggles. And I would say the highlights of my life have been usually right after the darkest points or the points where I had to face enormous obstacles. And I didn't choose the route that was the most courageous or the most bold. It was like a door shut in my face, and it was like, you can't go that way. So I had to find another way, and the other way was my way. So that's why, I mean, it's deeply related to shadow work as well, because often when this kind of stuff comes up, a lot of people might go, oh, we'll just put the lid on that, we'll just shut the door on that. We're not, I mean, this is a different door shutting, I'm using the same metaphor, but let's say that it's something that might be related to a childhood wound, or it might be something that's bringing up a lot of fear. And you then keep yourself small and stuck, let's say related to work, because you're afraid of going there where you actually need to go. Because when we go through, and because I work with transformation with retreats for so many decades now, watching this with clients, it's very similar. It's that breaking down where you really feel like everything, it's like the worst has just happened or is about to happen. You go through, and then immediately on the other side of that, the sun comes out again. It's like, it really is like the sunshine after rain. So in terms of my highlights, I would say there were definitely some key moments. One was where I was kicked out of my TV job. I often call it the moment I was booted out of patriarchy, because what happened there was a real soul searching moment where I had to tap into what did I actually want when I was 20? What did I want to do with my life before the responsibilities of rent and all those things came along? And I realized that actually I wanted to be a writer, and having a Sagittarius midheaven and Venus in Sagittarius, I went off traveling, and that's where I found a lot of my inspiration.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, there are many highlights, but like I said at first, there's usually it's related to challenges and obstacles.
Yeah, yes, interesting. And I have heard you speak. We met in person last year at a beautiful gathering, and I loved hearing your story of how you came to be in the retreat business. Would you be willing to share that? It was unique, interesting for me. I found it, and what felt to me like very courageous, albeit potentially in the face of a door closing, here's something else to explore. But would that be something that you'd be happy to share? That's that story of.
Yes, I have no taboos in what I'm going to share. I mean, obviously there are certain things that maybe not everybody's interested in, but
Yeah.
in terms of how I came to retreats, I often say retreats found me, because once the door to the TV career, and it was really a time when I was the only woman in the network. Can you imagine? I mean, a Swiss network, quite a small network, but it was still the national network. And I was the only female foreign correspondent, so already trailblazing. And when that door shut, I didn't know what I was going to do, because that had been everything. That had been the pinnacle of my career. And as you may know, for a journalist, being a foreign correspondent is kind of the furthest you can go. It's unless you want to be an editor, which I found was going to be much more boring. So I went off to Southeast Asia and discovered not just yoga, but I went on a detox retreat. And slowly by slowly, as I was following the breadcrumbs of this path, I started to, I would say, fall into alignment. And then the real sort of big move into the wellness business, into the retreat business, happened when I was pregnant with my oldest son, who's now 15. And we went, him and his, not him, him in my belly, and his father and me went to India on a holiday, which is actually where I met his father, because we thought this is going to be the last time we have a big trip, and then we have a family and everything's going to be different. Little did we know it was the start of the biggest adventure. And when we were there, we were actually on a motorbike going, this is such a great life. And he said, I want to live here. I want to bring up our child here. And boom, 3 days later, we were offered a strip of beach land, like literally a mound of sand to rent. And my first response was, that's not really what I had in mind to run a resort. But then we started to research a bit, and we said, why don't we do a yoga place? There was no yoga resort in the south of Goa at the time like that, and we really set a precedent. There lots of people copied us afterwards, and it went on to do really well very quickly. Also, the timing was ideal because it was just when people were starting to book holidays online. They were starting to trust the internet. So we didn't actually build it until we had the first bookings. So we went back to Europe, built the website, and with the money, it was, I think, the last of my savings that I had from the TV. And with the first bookings, we were actually managed to build the resort. So it was a really bold, courageous, audacious thing to do. And as you know, the root of the word courage is cœur from the French. Yes, exactly. So we were following our hearts. And you could say, did luck come into it? There's always this thing with manifestation. You make a decision that you're going to do it. It's more than wanting. It's like you go all in. This alignment piece is, you make the decision and you do everything you can to make it happen. Now, this meant getting the website ready, calling yoga teachers, finding the list of all the top yoga teachers, inviting them to come and maybe book with us. And some of them, and we were really lucky in that we got some of the really best leading teachers based on a phone conversation, just based on, again, energetics, synchronicity, just being friendly and connecting.
Amazing. I love a few times in there you've used this idea of sort of alignment, and I know people talk about, as you said, like manifestation, or is it luck, or is it opportunities? But there is these synchronistic events that can seemingly unfold in really beautiful ways when, the way that I sort of feel and see it is like when your heart really is in alignment with what you're desiring. It's not a should anymore. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm being really called into this, and do I want to say yes to it? What did it feel like for you to get that impetus and actually say yes?
Yeah, I think there's trust involved as well, and trusting in it's very feminine in terms of you trust in something that isn't yet tangible or visible. It's not logical. It's based on belief, trust, but you're already there. So you're visioning how it could look. and you're using that as your guiding North Star. Because if you keep looking back, or you listen to everyone telling you, no, you can't do it, that's going to be too complicated. Obviously, when we went out there, we had a 10-week-old baby. By the time we'd done the website, gone back to Europe, and when we went out to build it, we had a 10-week-old baby. My first child, the first grandchild on both sides. Now you can imagine the kind of comments we got and the kind of responses, but it just felt like once we had decided, there was no going back. And this is the thing, when you have a future vision of something, this doesn't mean you have to complete every project. You know, sometimes it's trial and error, and we try something and it doesn't work out. And then we also have to have the alignment to go, actually, that's not working now. That's not my path. I'm going to course adjust. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it differently, and really learn from that. Because it's this thing of, isn't it, when we make a so-called mistake, it's actually feedback. And I see this a lot with women who I work with, especially online. There's so much self-judgment. There's so much taking, like, even every single post, if a post didn't perform well, we take it personally. Maybe I just didn't, maybe it was too much, maybe I wasn't enough, maybe I should have used the words differently. It's feedback. And then when something does do well, it's like, that's feedback too. Don't take it personally. It's not because you're amazing. No, it's just work. It's just the universe giving you some answers now. And I mean, I think this is the key to alignment and manifestation. It's so in the moment, and it's so related to being unattached.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's this balance of holding the vision without being attached to the outcome and how it's going to look.
Yes.
That's the dance.
It is. But I love sharing your story, and I hear that. I totally like working with that with my own clients, like what is the possibility and how we slowly become the person that can embody it and fulfill it and not being attached to it. It's really such an interesting dance. But what I love about sharing your story is, and just sharing stories where people perhaps haven't lived a life that looks like the norm, if you know what I mean by that, I feel like it helps open other people's minds to possibilities, to that, yes, okay, it might not be the most likely thing, but if there's a wanting in you, how much of you are you going to let believe that could be possible? You know, how much of you are you going to let see where this could go? And I even noticed with your, like, so there's so much more to your story yet, right? Because you also, within that retreat business, as a new mother, saw this incredible gap in the market. And I would really love for you to share a bit more about what you created with the mothers and babies retreats. You know, it's such an amazing concept. And I hadn't really heard about it until I came across you. And I think it's such a beautiful offering for everybody to know about. Everybody should know about this as a possibility. So please share more about your mother and children concept.
Yes. So just to get the dates correct, because I think maybe I had sent it wrong but when you read it out, it was 2013, actually. That came after. So 2008 was when we were in Goa, because I'm not quite that.
I see. Yeah.
Nearly, but so, and just to answer the first part of your question, I think it's when we make these bold moves, we're also showing others what's possible. It's like holding up a mirror and going, if I can do it, you can do it. Because it was never from a point of, well, only I can do it. And, you know, you have to have all these prerequisites, otherwise you can't do it. It really was everything I do is like, if I can do it, you can do it. And let's do it together. And let me make it easy for you. Let me collapse time for you. Let me give you my roadmap. Let me share. And that's how I will answer the second part of your question. But this is why also I feel I cannot be the only one doing mother-child retreats. It's ridiculous. I mean, how many mothers are there on the planet? So it's always this thing of we lift as we rise together, we hold up the mirror, we show others what's possible. And I think women are especially good at this. So just like before I said, we're very self-critical, but we're also really good at being very transparent in how we did it, because we don't necessarily have that competitive streak naturally. I'm really speaking very much in polarities of feminine, masculine, but I really believe when women, this whole thing with women sitting in circle, women coming together, we actually feel that we are here to do things in community, and we do that very well. So, I mean, this really does feed into the story of HolyMama, because after 11 years of doing these retreats, and I think it's like close to 80 retreats now we've done we're over the years in different places, and since I started in 2013, I have seen it and I've experienced it. And what the biggest takeaway for women often is, I didn't know it could feel this good to be with other women and to feel this non-competitive environment where we really support each other. So for me, it really came, well, again, another pregnancy. I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was living here in the south of Spain, feeling very isolated. I didn't really have many friends here, definitely no family from my side. And I was coming from Goa, we'd already left that business behind and we weren't going back out there. And I really felt that there was nothing for mothers and children. And it was what I needed most as well myself. Yeah. And it was an idea that really just came very quickly with the gestation of my daughter. I sometimes say she was the mascot, or it came through her as my biggest gift to mothers and children. And I told my sister, and within 5 days, she told her friends. And within the next week, everyone had already booked their ticket. And that was the first retreat. It happened really small, and it just grew from year to year. And I didn't set out to create this global brand or this legacy that, I mean, now literally it has changed the landscape for mothers. And there are women in different countries doing this. And all of the ones who have really set out to do this, who've taken the training that I started offering in 2018, they've become the market leaders in their territories: Poland, France, England, Germany, the States. It's incredible to see the ripple effect, because it's a concept that works and it's so needed. And you know, it takes a little bit of fine tuning. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of needs. There's a lot of postnatal trauma that comes up. I mean, because you're providing a safe space. For some women, it's the first time they've actually been able to exhale since they gave birth, or the first time someone actually sees them and listens to them. Imagine it just shows me what, I get this. I start getting into my activist, and this is another part of the holding up a mirror. I think we're here to activate each other. And this is the thing, if it's not just if I can do it, you can do it. It's like, let's change the world, because we need to. Isn't it? And the healthcare system, it's not looking after mothers. I mean, so many women have postpartum depression that needn't go down that route. If society and the healthcare system, so-called healthcare system, was actually doing its job. So yeah, anyway, I'm not going to go down that route now, but the retreats really work for every area. I mean, I do believe they are medicine for our times. They are here in whatever you feel you would like to do with your life and your work. Adding retreats is always a bonus.
Yeah. And just to clarify for anyone, to make sure people understand this concept, that this women and their babies and their children, because I've been on a number of retreats myself and I have loved every one of them, but there've been ones where I go away and I'm leaving my children with loved ones, caretakers back home. So that's kind of the way that I'm getting the break. And absolutely hear you on being in these safe spaces where we can share what's on our hearts and what's coming up for us is such medicine. And I've experienced that too, but your experience is that this crafting idea of when you really aren't able to leave your child, you're bringing the child on the retreat, and you're still getting the opportunity to rest and rejuvenate and have that. So that's real magic. If anyone just didn't catch that, that's actually part of what you've created. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Thanks for clarifying that. Also, there are many women who don't have families. So lots of expats who live really far away from family, single mothers, widows, also partner women who are in marriage and whose husbands go just take a break, or whose husbands go away a lot traveling, or who just really feel that they want an experience where they're alone with their child, because the beauty of it is you get some time for yourself and you get bonding time. So many women come with a second child as well, and they leave their first child at home because the second child, the classic second child, hasn't had that space really and time that the first child has. Some come, we had people come back 3-4 times, each time with either a different child or with another child, a second or third child. And it's just, yeah, it's been absolutely incredible to be able to really offer this to mothers, because it is, like I said, it's so needed.
Yeah, amazing. And now I know you've also written a book, which is incredible. And I feel like I would love to just briefly invite it in, because there's something courageous about the topic that you've tackled in that book as well. And so, yeah, would you like to talk to that? Tell us about the book that you wrote.
Yeah, so this was all this was actually this came through the second. So with each child there was a different birthing process. So
Wow.
the book really came between. So when I had my first, I was already 40. So I'm now, as we record this, he's 15, so I'm 55 now. And I was told at that time, I mean, now, of course, women have children in their 40s, but it's still seen as a bit, well, you are getting a bit older. And I remember even when I was 32 going to the gynecologist, and she said, well, if you want to have children, it's time to start really getting serious about your relationships. And and classic, how many women meet the right guy when they feel ready? It just didn't happen for me.
Yeah.
So by the time I had my first, and then because I was coming from journalism, I started to research, and I went out to interview some of the real leaders in childbirth, from Michelle Oden, Ina May Gaskin. I just really went deliberately and said, I'm going to do interviews. And the feedback they gave me was that actually there are no disadvantages to being an older mother. So I did a lot of research on health and nutrition. That actually led me into coaching, into doing a health coach training, because I realized how important nutrition was, mindset, also the spiritual aspect to conception, which is the piece not many people talk about, especially not in the IVF world, because it's such an important aspect that we've lost that connection in Western culture. So with all that research, I wrote this book called Right Time Baby, and it's actually, I need to do another edition of it, because there's the research is still pretty current, but there's more to add. And women are actually, waiting longer and longer in all countries now, because why not? And there are stats showing that the more you have your children after 40, or the statistics go up for living longer, the centenarian studies, you're more likely to reach 100, 4 times more likely to reach 100 if you have your child over 40. That's the exact term.
Wow.
And there are 4 different studies proving that. And it makes sense, because if you have your children later, it has that rejuvenating effect in that, well, you're psychologically not thinking that you're already middle-aged. In fact, you've just gone into starting a young family, and if you want to stay around to be a grandmother, then
Wow.
get with it.
Yes. Well, I love that too. It's another possibility that if people don't hear it, or if people haven't been exposed to it, you can get swept up in that noise that you said, of like people getting you worried in your early 30s that you need to freeze your eggs, or whatever the stories are, but that, oh, you're going to be too old to be a mother. And then just allowing that possibility, it may be true, and it also may be not true. So allow yourself to believe in that, if that really is what your heart is desiring. So yeah, amazing. Thank you. There's one more thing I'd like to touch on as we sort of come to close the conversation. But right before we got on, before we started recording, you said this phrase: "The older I get, the bolder I get." And I know we tapped into little bits of it through this, the mirror and activating others and things. But I'd love to invite you to sort of express those thoughts a little bit for the audience, for everyone listening.
Yeah, it's actually it's a good slogan, isn't it? The older, the bolder. The I think the key to it is personal development, because if you keep working on yourself, and now we have so many tools. I mean, obviously human design, which you're also really into, astrology has become even more refined and advanced, that now we're looking at, branding and your midheaven and your 10,000, all of this is becoming so much more sophisticated. So we have these incredible tools. So the more I think you know yourself, the bolder you can be, because it's like all of the voices that some people might hear voices, and others just have, the self-talk, let's call it self-talk, about, it's usually related to shame, guilt, and fear. So what they often call the lower vibration frequency, but it's very dominant and can be very loud because it's our conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's a hormonal thing that happens, of course, to women as we go through the change.
Yeah.
And there's this phase now that we are becoming longer, living longer and healthier. There's this long stretch of time where we still have a lot of energy. We're not old really, and we have the brain power, and we don't have the hormonal ups and downs from the lunar, where we can be more attuned to the actual moon. Often it's called the MAGA phase, where we actually have more the testosterone is that we become, it's how we become, this is this wild woman aspect, that we are not so easy to tame, because we actually don't really care if our ovaries get impregnated or not. We're just like, no, I'm not taking this shit.
Yeah.
This is now me, real me, raw, no more people pleasing.
Yeah.
That is done. This is like now time to really move into your true self and your boldness. So this is why I think we're just living in this fascinating time. And in the past, even 20 years ago, the way women were treated, and the way women, it was not so long that women couldn't even have their own credit card. So we sometimes forget how far we've come. And who knows in 20 years how far we'll have come. So we are actually the women who are moving this conversation forward. And that's it's a very exciting time to be alive.
Yes. Yes. And I get excited about hearing you say that, because it's so feels so aligned to the work that I'm doing, helping people be radically yourself. So it's just like, this is coming. Start standing up, being the you that you came here to be, the true you. Like, let's shed any of the stories that are distracting you from what is your essence, from what you're really about, what you're really here for. And I think the more people we get online with that, because it's a heart-based thing, it's an aligned thing. It's about, we can do this together, right? We can change the world when we all come from this more like radical self-expression and coming from your truth. It just creates magic. I think it opens gateways to magic. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you so much. Can you just give us a little bit, like, if people want to know a bit more about your work, just like feed into a little bit into the conversation about the work that you are doing, how people can interact with it. And obviously I'll put your socials and things in the show notes, but just let people know a little bit more how they can find out more about what you're doing these days.
So for many years now, I've really been in the mentoring space, as well as giving retreats. I still love retreats. I love in-person work because it is so profound and transformational, and it's it's a bit like in the school of Tantra, they say that the teachings are best transmitted in person. It's like an energetic transmission. And some of us really learn through osmosis. So it's a great space to be in. So I still do retreats, but I do a lot of mentorship online, and really also helping women build their businesses online, because it's the future. I mean, it's the present and the future, and it's actually a way to collapse time, work less, because most people in the modern world, everyone's chasing the money, but before it was like, well, if you have more money, you have to work harder. No, that's not true. In fact, quite the opposite. It really has become the case of the more money you're making, the less you have to work when you're looking at digital assets. Then it's just a question of being really strategic, intentional, and up your marketing game. So that's why right now I've really been studying sort of for 18 months now, in depth marketing and sales and all the different strategies, as well as the energetic alignment, the mindset, because I think this is where, once women get that really helps them grow their businesses. It's visibility. Visibility is a big piece of this. So yeah, so if anyone, sorry, that's my son in the background there, I'm gonna tell him off afterwards.
No worries.
So if anybody is interested, yeah, I have lots of different ways. I have a whole what do you call it, a low ticket taster menu, offer suite, different ways to experience my work. I'm a 5-1 in human design, so I'm born to investigate and then pass it on, and the teacher role, but also I'm the line 5 is really here. It's the transfer, as you know. I'm just saying this for those
for others. Yeah, no, it's all good. The visionary leader, I see you as a visionary leader. It's already there. It's already so in your work, in your aura, in your field. Yeah.
This is why this is so beautiful, having these tools. And then if you look at the astrology as well, it's so clear. And I've really, I've lived in this body for these 5.5 decades. And it just, every day I get new insights and new like, this is because of this. And this really, it's like there's no stopping this expression of us becoming more of ourselves. It's not like, okay, now I'm myself, I've finished the journey. This is the beauty about personal development. It's like it's not even like a flower, but it's like a kaleidoscope of colors that just become more and more and more and more and more and deeper and wider. And it's just, I mean, that's how it feels. So yeah, I think I have a lot of fire in my chart. So even though I have a lot of water, I've got a lot of 8th house, a lot of like a triple, was it a Scorpio stellium? But I also have the fire. So I have this interesting chart that is actually here to lead and to lead leaders and to activate others. There's my son again. Sorry about that. I'm gonna mute now.
That's all good. Well, let's finish up there anyway. It's been so amazing to have you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and allowing other people a glimpse into what is possible, and to see how what happens when you can follow your heart and be a bit courageous and make those bold decisions and actually stand up for what you want. It's been really, really such a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation.
Thank you so much, Jo. Thank you.
Bye.